Hey guys, Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you, and today we're going to be taking a look at the new Coolermaster Hyper 612S CPU cooler. I thought I'd try and mix in some reviews as well as the build logs. This actually arrived just before I went away to iSeries, and I've not had a chance to test it, but we're going to be taking a look at it today. Just to show you the specs on the side, because I'm going to show you it and we'll have a good look at the cooler, but anyway, it supports all the major sockets: 1366, 1156, obviously 1155 as well, 775, AM3, AM2 and AM2 Plus. Now, one thing I will say is where it supports AM3, AM2 and AM2 Plus, that also means it will support Bulldozer, because Bulldozer is the same mount as AM3, so that's all lovely. Keeps everything, you know, all hunky-dory. The fan airflow, they're saying, is 52.6 CFM, but I've not really got any way of testing or kind of collaborating that, so we'll just, you know, stick with just having a look at it. But what they do say is that this is designed to be super low noise, and Coolermaster have said that this is mainly targeted at the European market, because of where we predominantly like our stuff quiet, but obviously not to start a row. For those of you in other parts of the world, like the States, for example, that do like a quiet rig, this could also be right up your street. But I'm just kind of quoting what was said by them. Now, the mounts, I've already had a look at this quick, but I just want to show you something. Because it was something I was quite impressed with straight out of the box. Is if you have a look carefully in this bag, I mean, this is all your box, all your bits of bags basically, but the black plastic bits is a spare set of fan clips, and I will speak to you more about that now. I'm going to just get the cooler out of the box. I should really stop listening. I'm supposed to be making a video. Got Ollie Murs in my head because it's on the radio. Right. Right, that's it. The cooler's out. Now, one thing I will say straight away is that this is a 120mm fan on here. In fact, I'm going to zoom you in a bit. This is a 120mm fan on here, so it's actually a bit bigger than I was first expecting. I really wasn't expecting it to be this big. But what I was saying about it's got a second set of fans, it's so that you can attach the fans, or you can attach another fan on the other side if you want. So it comes ready for push-pull. Obviously you can change the fan, or you can just stick another one that you've got on. But it only comes with the single one in the box. And bring you up for a close look. It's like a smoked kind of style. They're semi-transparent blades. They're not just black. The frame is just black though. And having a look, there are mounts for LEDs, but there's none actually fitted in this. But if you have a look at the bottom, now obviously I have to watch what I'm doing on the camera. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 heat pipes. And they look like 6mm heat pipes as well, although it's not saying anywhere on the schematics what size they are, but they look like 6mm heat pipes to me. And then there's also a very large kind of aluminium heatsink here, but the base where the heat pipes go through is copper as well. It's just the top bit is ali. So you can see your heat pipe arrangement on the top. But it is actually quite a funky design. And like I said, it's a lot bigger than I was expecting. Straubs, can you pass me the ruler quickly, please? It's 100mm, so 10 centimeters in depth, and it's really the depth that first, you know, shocked me about the size of it. Obviously we know that the main body is roughly about 120mm because the fan's on there, but it's the depth that quite shocked me. I mean, once that's on your CPU heat on your motherboard, you can see that it's going to be quite big. But obviously we're going to be getting this fitted and tested in the rig. So really, I best get on with that, get it fitted, and then we can start to listen. I'm gonna, because there's no, or at least I don't think there was any fan speed adjusters. I will double check before I open my mouth. There's no fan speed adjusters, so we'll just be testing it on 12 volts because we only test it with what comes in the box. But yeah, we'll see how well this performs. I'm going to box off and get this fitted, so hang around for some testing. In true TTL fashion, I found the fan speed reducer, so we'll be testing it at 12 volts and with the fan speed reducer. So yeah, I just thought I'd add that in. It does come with a fan speed reducer, but let's crack on with the testing. I need to get this thing fitted. Right then, guys and girlies, just a quick one for you. You get these brackets which go on the back of the CPU cooler, and you can see that the threads come down. The threads actually come to the back of the motherboard, so pretty much all you do is poke the heatsink through, push the back plate over the threads, and then put these bolts on, which you get an adapter for to be able to do it up. Basically this goes over the top of your bolts, so you can then use a screwdriver to do them up. It's actually really simple. It's actually better than trying to do it up by putting the bolts through from this side. I'd actually say that this kind of cooler, this kind of retention or fitting, it's definitely better than the scythe mount because it is quite easy. You can just hold this in place, and because the threads are already through. Whereas with the scythe ones, you're trying to push the screws from this side and balance all the heatsink and move it all about. So this is a much better. Even though it's basic, it's better than some of the other ones, and you can do it by yourself. I had Mr. Strawberry just hold the cooler for me, but you could easily do it yourself without a problem. Right then, guys, all in and installed. You can see what I mean just by looking here about the sheer size of it, considering it's a single tower as well. It's a fair old mass there. Obviously it's 120mm, so if you've got 120mm exhaust fan, it's going to fit fine. Also it'll fit fine as long as you haven't got any side panel fans that are going to flipped on the size. Now silence wise, if I put this here and I stop that fan, if I stop this fan, there is an ever so slight buzzing noise from this, but to be perfectly honest with you, the thing that I can hear the most is the hard drive. If I hold the hard drive down, the system is almost silent. I mean, being really anal and picky about it, there is a slight bit of running noise from the fan. It's not air noise, it's actually the fan running. But it's so very silent, and that's only really when I'm sat here with a completely silent room and like really listening for it. But to be perfectly honest with you, it is very quiet. I'm surprised how quiet this is. But anyway, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get on with testing. We're going to do 4 GHz to start off with, as we always do, at 1.25 volts, and yeah, we'll see how we get on. But I'm going to crack on now with the testing. Right then, guys, you can see there, that's the ambient temperature of 23.5 degrees. We move up, let the camera focus. You can see 1.25 volts, and we're running at 200 times 20 with the good old faithful 950. Prime has been running for 30 minutes, just over, and that's our temperatures. When I took my results, I got 81, 78, 78 and 77, which gave us an average temperature of 78.5 degrees. Take away the 23.5 degrees ambient temperature, and that gives you a 55 degrees dead delta temperature. And that's with the CPU fan on 12 volts. Now what I'm going to do is, because the CPU cooler is already so quiet, I'm not going to bother running it with the fan speed reducer. I'm going to see if this has got the cooling capabilities to handle our 4.2 gigahertz overclock. Right then guys, you can see the test started there at 13:21. Not even 8 minutes later, I'm already at 95 degrees, 94, 95 degrees. And I generally count 90 degrees as a fail now, as in I don't really bother, because I don't call it a safe temperature at all. So I'm going to quit prime. But yeah, it can't handle 4.2 gigahertz. Right then guys and girlies, first time you've seen my ugly mug in this part of the video, but it's time to get things wrapped up for the 612S. Now I've had a quick look around online, and where this cooler's technically not been released yet, all I'm really seeing is about $49.99 but in US dollars. Now that's a bit of it's an awkward one, because we still don't know 100% what the price is going to be coming in the UK, but I'm kind of thinking in my head for this about 40 GBP, so basically knocking a little bit off the dollars, but obviously not a massive amount. But I'm going to base my kind of thoughts on this of it being £40. Now, temperatures. With the fan on 100%, and let's face it, for as far as noise is concerned, there really wasn't any. There, if being immensely anal about it, there was a tiny little bit of fan noise, as in fan buzz, but you really did have to get in there to listen to it. By the time the side panel's on, and you add the other kind of case fans or hard drives into it, you really can't hear it. It's just me literally silencing everything else to listen. I could personally, with my ears, pick that up. But very quiet, to the point where I was surprised how quiet this thing was. It's definitely been designed with silence in mind. Also the size as well. Now with the mount, the way where the threads go from the cooler out the back, that makes it so much simpler to mount. It's still not as good as the kind of Noctua stroke silver arrows, alright, as long as you don't consider the tension plate and the Prelimatech ones, but kind of comes in, you know, almost in fourth place as far as the actual mount is concerned. It's much better than the side ones where you have to screw through from the back. So that, although it's not perfect, it's definitely it's not a bad thing, but it's also, it's simple enough that you can do it on your own, and it's really not something that you need a degree in either. So I liked all that. But temperatures, average temperature at 4 gigahertz with the fan on 100% was 78.5. Once you took the ambient temperature off, that gave us a delta temperature of 55 degrees. Now that's really not a bad delta temperature at all. And if it's coming in at 40 quid and being quiet and still getting 55 deltas with a 950, then that's scoring pretty well. When you go up to kind of 4.2 gigahertz, it was hitting the 90s, but that's really probably because of the fans. I mean, adding an extra fan might make a little bit of difference, but really you'd need a fan with a higher static pressure, or dare I say it, one that spins a bit faster. If you can't, you know, if you're not going to be paying for expensive fans, maybe one that spins a bit faster to help dissipate a bit more heat. But one thing that we do need to remember is that I'm still testing on a 1366 950, so it's one of the hotter processors. All the Sandy Bridge processors will be cheaper. All the Sandy Bridge processors will be cooler, and AMD will be another thing entirely, because they're just even cooler still. So if you're looking at this for Sandy, then you really won't be getting any problems at all. I would go as far as to say, if you've got a Sandy around what I would call safe volts, which is around kind of 1.4 volts is a limit, and I would have thought, now obviously I can't say accurately without testing, I would have thought this would have been floating around the high 70s with a 1.4 volt overclock on a Sandy. And the 1.4 volt, some of them will get to 4.6 with that, some of them I've seen are doing 5 gig with that, because obviously you've got to think about the silicon lottery. But what I'm basically trying to say is this cooler is, you know, fairly well equipped to be able to cope. Like I said, obviously with the older 1366 stuff, you're going to struggle because, say for argument's sake, on the other side of the coin, you've got a 920, and your 920 needs 1.35 volts for 4.4 gigahertz. Then that's the same volts I was using for 4.2. So you'll be getting the same temperatures I was at 4.2. So I don't want to try and make it too confusing, but it's the volts that you've really got to be thinking about. So if you've got a 1366, 1.25 volts, you'll be getting roughly the same sort of temperatures that I've been getting here, depending on the clock that you can get out of it. If you go in sandy, then I'd be a lot happier to push the volts a bit higher because those chips are notoriously cooler because of the way that they're made. So it's a bit of a balancing act, and because of that balancing act, if it comes in at about 40 quid, I would be happy to give it the OC3D Silver Award. If it came in at 45 or 50, then we'd be talking a bronze. So I'm going to say I'm going to give it a silver, but we'll wait to see on those prices. But really, for me, the main kind of selling point for this cooler is it is actually very, very quiet, and still, you know, produces relatively good temps. Not saying it's brilliant, but another thing you've got to think about is you've got the customizability, if that's really a word. In that, obviously you can change the fans, but it comes with a bracket, so you can add a second one. You could technically have two on there blowing across. But another thing that you've got to factor when you think about, oh, I'll just change the fans, or I'm going to run two fans, is then you're technically adding price, or, you know, adding value onto the cooler. And then really, once you start adding value on it, you kind of think to yourself, am I better off spending money on something else? So, as ever, I'm kind of feeding you lots of information in the hope that that will help you make your own mind up on whether this is the right cooler for you or not. But it's definitely not a cooler I would telling you to be not buying, because like I said, it's fairly chunky, it's good looking, you can easily run other fans on it. You can run push-pull on it if you want, it's not that hard to mount. There's a lot of good things going for it. It's just the fact that I think really that because it is so quiet, that's the reason why the temperatures are a bit warmer, is because that fan really isn't pushing much air over that heatsink. So maybe a slightly different fan could make a lot of difference, but I always test my heatsinks as they come out the box. I don't add stuff to them, I don't really mess them about too much, or don't mess about with them too much. But still a very good cooler all the same. To the point where, like I said, I can see a lot of people using this on a basic gaming build, or a gaming build, and maybe system administrators or OEM suppliers that are going to be building rigs to go out to people, like the big retailers in the country are probably going to use this if they can get it cheap enough. So yeah, very, very good. Obviously I am a big one for silence, and as far as silence can go, just a little bit, the temperatures weren't great, but again, like I said before, I think that's about the fan more than anything else. But a good thumbs up really, Coolermaster. It's nice to see a new cooler from you guys. Definitely a step in the right direction. So yeah, OC3D Silver Award, but that really is based on that price, so we'll have to hope that it does hit the UK shores at about 40 quid. But yeah, that's another video for you. This is Tiny Tom Logan, and I've already said it with another video for you.